So I'm going to explain Norway to you today. It's going to be 2 hours of a lot of stuff. I'm going to first introduce myself. And for everyone who's doing presentation, this is something I learned when I'm been responsible for sort of the program director for the Norwegian Grammy conference. You have to have like a picture of yourself, a big one, and then your name. I'm an educated teacher. I've started playing like in the 80s, and then the easiest thing, I'm sure this educated teacher said too, because that was an easy education to do whilst playing, and then you use the student loan to buy amps and guitars and all that stuff. So I did that in the early 90s. I've been teaching high school for many years, and then of course playing at the same time. And then in the 90s, I was asked to join the Getaway People, a local Stavanger band, with this vocalist that's trying to become a superstar in the UK in the boy band era in the 80s. So he sort of brought some international flavor to the stuff that we would do. So we established the company like in the mid-90s and had aimed for, we wanted a major deal in the States, America. So that was our goal, and spending some money, loaning some money in the bank, we actually achieved, recording in Stavanger, this little coastal town in Norway. We managed, after pure luck, good songs, good production, to sign a big deal with Columbia Records in New York, directly out of Stavanger in the mid-90s. And for some of you who were actually alive in the 90s, the last years of the 90s was sort of the really good heydays of the music business. I've never seen so much money anywhere, ever. Big fat deals, all that stuff. So we signed a big deal, major deal in New York directly. We also signed with EMI Publishing. I didn't know what that meant, or no clue whatsoever, but a big deal and moved to New York, stayed there for 4 years. I've been 46 states. We were going to break as a live band. So I've been touring to death. I've been traveling all the states in Europe, so many. So I kind of, this body has sort of felt what it's like to be on tour, which is a great experience and really tiresome and hard work. And also it was like I brought, this understanding of the US market and the setup. It took me a year just to understand, what's actually going on. Coming from Scandinavian Europe, the structures are so different when it comes to promotion, the way of thinking. I'm born and raised with American music, of course, but it's like to be there and understanding, starting to see the undercurrents and actually how people work. And that's also really good knowledge to have today, of course, even though everything has changed. So before 2001, it's like that was the old economy. And then, of course, from 2001, maybe 2009, 10, 11, that's the no economy, when music was extremely free. And now we're in the new old economy, music as a product. It's got financial value again. And to sort of work through those 15, 20 years has been extremely interesting because coming from a lot of money to no money, restructuring, sort of bringing the power back to the people, the DIY culture, sort of trying to find ways to survive as an artist and work with artists, artist development, working with festivals, and see all these changes and sort of see sort of the sun rising again. It's very interesting. I think this year and next year is going to be fantastically interesting in this business, when it comes to the US market, sort of trying to find their digital place and all that stuff. So I've been running an electronic music festival for 10, 11, 15 years last year, New Music in Stavanger. So it's working, it was set up as a home for the Norwegian electronic music scene around 2000. So everyone sort of played there. It's like a gathering for all the poor, but super cool and very good people, and that sort of developed over many years. So I haven't been heavily involved lately, but I ran it for many years. And then in 2008, I was asked to establish a management company for local artists in Stavanger. And Stavanger is this big. It's actually bigger than you think because it's the oil capital of Norway. All the rich kids, okay, I'm not going to say this, but it's built on, extremely wealth. and which makes it really boring for people like me. But like fighting that for many, many years through the festival, trying to sort of work with local artists and see if they both had the talent and of course the will to succeed, was like interesting but also really frustrating because like in Sweden maybe, at least in Norway, I tend to say that like 80% of Norwegian artists are sort of the middle class self-realization project. It's got nothing to do with really wanting this. It's something you can do. Because as you custom to the West, there's been no real financial crisis. The oil price has been high for years and years. There's so much money in the system that you can actually, try to make it, which also triggers complacency, and that's a big, big problem. So I've been kind of trying to fight that and see how much, I was running this Great Moments management company for 5 years, trying to find ways to sort of bring local talent to the people. So I worked with Kvelertak. You probably know Kvelertak. I love metal, so I did a Purified in Blood, and all the hardcore, a lot of that stuff, and singer-songwriter stuff. So, but working with the artist as an entity, like, you have to sort of take control of your own your own career. You have to sort of develop skills and understand the economy you're part of, even if you do the tiniest little pling-plong art music, you're part of an economy. The moment you actually, sell for 51 crown, you're part of something that's bigger than you, and you have to understand those mechanisms if you're going to survive. So after doing that, I've been sort of running my own music business consultancy and working with both musicians and artists and music businesses, but I've also been working closely with visual artists. How do you bring your product, the Americans say product, I love to say that, the art itself to a market without sort of, without the art suffering from the market's expectations itself. And it's all about like, you create something here for a listener to listen to here, and it's the in-between that sort of we deal with. Maybe some of you are artists, I'll check with you soon. But it's very interesting to see how do we bring good music, good art to an audience. If the audience or a buyer, even if it's the public in Norway, we have I'm going to explain to you later, Kulturrådet, a lot of public financing, but also like the private sector and an audience who pays with their own money. So I've been doing that for many years. I'm also part of like the Norwegian Music Business Advisory Board, working with politicians. I've been mentoring a lot of businesses. I'm also running a music investment fund. There is one tiny one in Norway, and it's out of Bergen, the city of Bergen. And so we've been investing and working closely with management, labels, stores, and different sort of, we've been working with how can you actually make a living out of what you do. And that's been really interesting. And now I'm got some funding this year to look into, see if that fund could actually be a national one. Competent risk capital, that's what this business needs. I'm sure that's something you need too. Okay, so before we move on, is there a lot of artists here? Many artists? 1, 2, okay, 3, good. Management? Labels? Publishers? What else? PA companies, sound engineers. Booking agency, of course. Like promo, marketing. Okay. So it's a good mix. You have to ask, this is like, instead of me being down there, you have to ask questions. I mean, I'm going to be so sick and tired of hearing myself all day that you need to ask those questions. And I'm probably going to tend to forget stuff, and then I'm going to talk my way to the left, and then I need to get back here and actually, stay true to what I'm going to say. So this is what I'm going to try to explain to you today. I'm going to say something about the Norwegian market. I'm going to say something about the digital revenues in the Norwegian market. I'm going to comment on what's called Musikk i Tall. There's a new report coming in a month's time. So these are the numbers from 2012, the first ever. Say something about Norwegian releases. Say something about, this is kind of important, customer behavior. And then I'm going to say the basic things. Talk about radio, TV, press, festivals, venues, booking, promoters, managements, promo marketing, labels, publishing, distribution, public support, and give you some resources to the end. So if I can do that in 2 hours, 1 hour and 30 minutes, I don't know. I'm going to be quite good. I'm trying to be my best. Ta-da! These are the numbers from 2014 from IFPI. The total Norwegian label, these are recorded music. This is not live and all that stuff. It's actually, this is 601 million NOK, Norwegian kroner. Out of that, 515, 86% is digital. But it's kind of interesting to see, you know, the market's been going down until 2011, sort of regaining in 2012 and 2013, and then kind of stable in 2014. But digital rising from 2009 from 15% to 86%. Crossing my fingers, it's going to be 90. It's probably not going to happen, but it's up there. Still revenue in millions, Norwegian crowns. The mix between streaming and physical and downloads. And as you can see, and as you probably know, downloads never, like iTunes, downloads never sort of caught on in Scandinavia. But it's interesting to see that streaming is really taking over for the physical market. And it's a good indicator that this is going to change for this year, for next year, and that's the way it goes. I'm sure this happens in Sweden. This is sort of the distribution in Norway. Still, it's recorded music, so it's downloads. It's kind of interesting that downloads are sort of stable. I'm not sure why, but maybe it's that generation or those kids or those people who actually loves to download music. Physical, same, I'm sure it's same in Sweden. And of course, streaming, gaining, and it's I'm sure streaming is going to be even higher this year. It's probably also like a generational shift. The thing is, if Spotify or Wimp or Tidal, if we can move people my age and above, 40-plus generation, over to streaming, now they will contribute way better and way more the way it's structured now to the streaming economy. The pro rata model is based on, because kids stream a lot of tracks, so the more you stream, the less a stream is worth. So it fluctuates. You understand this, hopefully. Which means every month a stream is not an exact amount every month, because the amount of streams divided by the amount of money, and then you get like how much a stream is actually worth. So the thing is, for streaming services is actually getting like older people who listen to music and don't consume music. You know, their money would be way more in the streaming economy. So hopefully it's like there are tendencies all over that like people 40 plus are getting more used to using iPads, iPhones, internet and all that. So we just need to get them over to the streaming platform, or we need to change that system. That's a different debate. We can discuss that later. Still distribution in Norway. Streaming, downloads, CD, vinyl, other. There's hundreds of percent. The increase of like vinyl is sort of having, it's coming back. But then again, the amount that vinyl actually from the total market in Norway, in Sweden, even in the US are sort of marginal. So basic is never going to be like 20% or 15%. I think in the States it's around 6% maybe. The new vinyl presses, I mean, a lot of people are doing vinyl because I think it's marginal in the overall market, but it's actually a very nice and also a very important part of the whole picture. So working with artists, using vinyl as a tool and also a platform to sort of communicate. I think it's very important. And also, I think, Jay-Z bought Aspiro, who runs Wimp, and then, of course, Tidal. They launched it last week. Where Tidal is actually the marketing, the lossless product towards. I think a lot of people listening to vinyl will also sort of buy into the Tidal Premium or the Hi-Fi or Deezer. It's sort of, people who listen to music. They don't consume music, they listen to music. It's a different thing. I'm going to come back to that a little bit. And also, I think this is very important for you if you're going to plan strategies for your artist. And it really depends on what kind of artist, where do you target your audience, who do you want to reach and how do you want to reach them. So this is like, all the slides I kind of shown to you now is basically saying that digital is sort of taking over for physical. Nothing surprising, you know this already. And it seems like streaming is the way to go. If the pro rata model is going to survive, or if it's going to be user-centric model, if it's there's different ways to see that. But it seems like like I said, the old new economy, music as a product, has got financial value. That's what it actually says. Okay, we can debate the amount you get per stream, how can we survive in the digital age and all that stuff. That's sort of a different story, but you have to do a lot more. That's probably the super short answer. So just Scandinavia versus the other big market, US market, the UK market, Japan. I'm not sure if Japan is in there, Germany. The knowledge that you guys have, that we have in Norway, Scandinavia, the way we've been living with this since 2008, it's like that knowledge is like, if you see those big, huge markets, they're going to change so fast, but they're physical. They don't totally understand the concept. They sort of understand some of the concept, but they don't understand the streaming economy, the digital economy. So that's an advantage that you guys have, that we have in Norway, that we should actually use together and actually take over the world. And I think this is going to be 2015, 2016. There might be a bloodbath, but there's going to be a streaming chaos. Something's going to happen over the next year that's going to be super important for you and the stuff that you do. And you know a lot about this. I do. So we should sort of use that to our advantage. Turnover, Norway. These numbers are old, but they sort of say something about the Norwegian market. I think the new one's going to be more precise, and it's going to show different numbers, and especially the export. That's impossible to see, but you see the numbers. So the Norwegian total market is 3 billion Norwegian crowns, and that's roughly half the Swedish market. I think the numbers from last year was like 7.6 billion. I read mine. And Norway is half the size of Sweden, so it kind of makes sense. It's interesting to see that recorded music represents roughly 1/3, half of the Norwegian music economy is live gigs, concerts, and that's exactly the same as in Sweden. So I think the ratio is kind of the same. Less money, should be more. The big thing about this report was actually, okay, where can we actually grow? The market itself, Norway is condensed, it's Norway. And of course, music now, our business is global. You don't sort of say the Swedish market, the Norwegian market. As an artist today, you're part of global economy, you're part of a global market, and you should act like one. If you sing in Dalarna dialect, or something, maybe it's hard to export to Japan, but everything is possible. Just need to wrap it in and sell it in some way. And so basically, our business is global, will be global, and we have to react and act to that. And we are competing with everyone all the time. I think there is way more professional approach to the business now than it used to be. Thanks to the Music Norway, the Export Music Sweden counterpart. I also think it's kind of interesting. Norway is known for electronic music, jazz music, like smaller genre, and of course metal. And metal never considered Norway as a market itself because Norway wasn't a home for enslaved or some of these expressions. It was a global, European global market from day one, even when you sold CDs. So they always been international. They always treat their product as a product, and they've been they're exposed to like an international way of thinking, and that's why Norwegian metal are doing good, actually doing great, and it's part of our pride. Live, very important. But then again, remember, if you will not make any money if there's no market. If there's no market out there, you can go on tour forever and you will make no money. So when artists say, oh, we're not making any money out of streaming, so we're going to go on tour, we're going to sell merch, it makes no sense if 2 people actually pay to see you. You're not going to make any money, you're never going to be invited back. I mean, there's this misconception of like how these new times work. So the moment you have a market, you can go on tour, you will make money. And that's why the concerts and recorded music are really connected. And of course, the copyright should be way bigger. I read the report, that's the strategy you have for Swedish music export, and it says like 14 million of those, the income here is actually from Norwegian artists, and that's been a huge problem. I'm gonna say that later too, but it's basically a lot of Norwegian have signed in this city to likes of Sony, ATV, and all. We don't have a publishing history in Norway. Did you know this? It's not too bad. It's not too bad actually. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. The market is 13 billion crowns. That's quite substantial. I also heard that Sweden is the 3rd largest music exporter in the world, which is kind of interesting. So suddenly, like, the Scandinavian market is actually quite big, and that's why it's influential, and it's actually important. So the new numbers for Sweden are actually 7.6 billion Swedish crowns. So this is a bit dated, which means you've been doing a good job lately. You've been really working hard. And I think 1.2 billion Swedish crowns are for export. So you kick our ass easily. So Norway is there. We're gonna be better. Wait 1 month, and then we'll show you. It's also been kind of interesting because it seems like it used to be if you had a Swedish band, a good song, you would make it in Norway. Those days are over, sorry to say. If you came to hear me say so, I think those days are over. Norway has always been listening. We've been listening to more Swedish music than you have. I mean, we listen to more Swedish music than Norwegian music. It's like, we've always been looking up to you and always explain that the Swedish success comes from ABBA. ABBA with a Swedish team, traveled the world, learned the trick of the trade, came back, there's a pride. The Swedish music business is built on ABBA. The Norwegian music business was supposed to be built on AHA. They left us, a UK team. There were no Norwegians involved at all. So that success wasn't a Norwegian success, it was a UK success. It's kind of the same with Stargate. Oh, we have these fantastic producers, the Norwegians, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they wave the Norwegian flag, but it's an American company, American management, American economy. It's an American company with Norwegians. So it seems like that what you have achieved is basically, sort of building a business around, maybe it comes from the ABBA story, so that you build some pride, and success brings success if you can nurture it in a good way. And the next ones, I'm not sure if you knew this. Interesting. We release so much music in Norway. Why? 5.5 million people. Kind of the double here, and you release half the music. What's wrong with the Norwegians? Probably We have a super good support system. So you can apply, you get funding to record, and you sort of... So in all, it's actually quite good. I think it's nice that you release music. The problem is basically every release are sort of shouting for its own, place in the sphere, and it makes so much noise. So basically, also there's today, probably more, there's over 20,000 new tracks on Spotify today. There is actually websites with lists of songs never ever played once on Spotify. You release stuff and it's never played. But there is so much music. It's like 25 million plus tracks. So basically releasing, like we did in the good old days, on a cassette or a CD, it made a difference. Releasing music today, who freaking cares? The key thing today, I think we're gonna hopefully discuss a little bit, is actually marketing. Marketing is crucial. So the product needs to be fantastic, the music, the artist, everything needs to be fantastic, and then you need smart and good marketing. And I don't think we're ready, and I don't think you understand how important and how actually the digital marketing works. I think that's going to be a new business in a way more stronger way to actually and to know how to navigate in the digital landscape. And Universal in this city, in Oslo, they have like 10, 15 people analyzing everything. They analyze YouTube. They got all the data, and they need the data. And so the targeting marketing is going to be crucial, but you need a lot of knowledge to be able to do that. Customer behavior. Science show that Norwegians are actually in the forefront in Scandinavia. We're really willing to pay for music. That's an interesting one. If it's easy and good, we'll pay. It's that simple. Bandwidth access, everyone got smartphone, same here. Tech is everywhere. And that's why the earlier slide, when you see Germans are really skeptical leaving their credit card information online. And that's why they buy CDs. It's really, you pay, you get. Scandinavians, we don't care. But tech is everywhere. We have there's a well-built infrastructure. We have the bandwidth. And in the US, I think, dial-up modems are still, when you go to the Midwest, you find dial-up modems. 48% of those between 15 and 24 report that they have shared links to individual songs and playlists. 27% also state they follow on social media. This is Norway, Norwegian research. So in Norway, that age group are really there. I think you're going to see higher numbers next year. And interesting enough, it used to be like 70% piracy. Ta-da! Last year, less than 1%. It's not there anymore because it's too stressful. It's too complicated. You can get free music through Spotify. Which means if it's easy and accessible, people don't want to steal. We want to pay for stuff. Also, I call it deinstitutionalization. The DIY, the individuals, no more, no care attitude. It's actually more a really care. We're kind of moving away from the big institutions, the big things. It's part of it. Goes on in the whole society. This is what happens everywhere, I think. Even the church are sort of losing its last, the last heydays of the church when it sort of brought everyone together. So it's kind of the deinstitutionalization is kind of happening. And also there is an eventification. I hope that's an English word. I think so. Events seems to have been taken over. We used to have like the NRK, the Swedish TV, used to be like 1 or 2 stations, and every Friday you saw the same program, you discussed the same things, you built a nation around these events. And that's been, with internet and access to everything everywhere, that's kind of vaporized, which means to have events where people gather together and share things are becoming more and more important. And there's some interesting research, I think, in the University of Oslo, looking into how is that affecting music, how is that affecting streaming behavior. I mean, it could be the World Cup in football, it could be the 22 Juli event, or the tragedy. Sort of, it brings people together, and music becomes part of the event itself. So this is what's going on. I've got no really good, I'm just saying this is something you should look for and look at and see if it makes sense to you too. But this is sort of happening. And also events takes more and more place in, through social media, sharing stuff, attending stuff, clicking likes. You sort of build an event around stuff there without being, physical in the same room.
Du sa 1% nedladdning kvar på den marknaden under 30. Hur ser det ut med TV och film? För det är ju också en inkomstkälla för låtskrivare. Och hur ser det ut med nedladdningen där i Norge?
The tendencies are a bit the same. I'll come back to TV and radio, as I promised. But for film, I mean, they're struggling more than the music business when it comes to... It's kind of interesting. The US market, they've invented Netflix, streaming. I mean, they've been in the forefront, way years ahead of Scandinavia. When it comes to music, boom, it's the opposite. And I'm not sure if that's of historical legal issues and copyright issues and all that stuff, but it seems like, the movie business and even newspapers, I'm going to come back to, really struggling with digitalization and the new customer behavior, and fighting their customers in many ways. So I don't have data on film, but it's happening. Basically in the US, cable is kind of everything, but cable is kind of losing its foothold because HBO made their app for the iPad, and now you don't have to have a subscription for cable to watch HBO, which is a big difference. And suddenly, if I don't watch TV anymore. I don't need my cable subscription in Norway. It's like, but I have to because it's tied to my internet, and I don't want to pay extra to get some guys to dig and put a new cable into my house. But it's like, I think cable, and also the quality of cable is not HD, not least in the States, but streaming is HD, so the quality is way better. So I think we're going to see the same things here. And also when it comes to sort of publishing and sort of your artist signing, a friend of mine is a manager in the States, said because everyone is sort of, especially in the States, is seeking towards publishing money. Not the publisher, but the makers, the filmmakers, they can really negotiate, they're pressing the prices down. So there's no standard. You will always need to negotiate whatever you do. If you make a publishing deal or a sync deal, you negotiate for that project, for that project, for that project. And because there's so many people wanting their music on TV and films and series, it's a buyer's market. So it could be rough times. Luckily, so the publishing world are sort of kind of really regulated in a good way. It's a long history.
Jag blev nyfiken på en sak när du visade marknadsandelar, domestic och total, alltså för ett stund sedan. Och även när du nämnde att det är svårare för svensk musik. För sådär 15 år sedan så startade jag någonting som heter Top 40 Scandinavia, som var på engelska och skulle cover hela Skandinavien. Och då minns jag att i Norge så var den lokala delen, lokal repertoar, norsk musik, det var 19%. Nu förstod inte jag ifall det var 90 eller 45, för jag förstod inte riktigt siffrorna du visade. Men det är en otroligt ökad andel lokal musik. Och frågan är, förklara varför det har blivit så.
No, snackar English again. This is weird. This is strange, my people. Yeah. The norsk andel is actually less. It's a big issue. People are raising concerns. Norwegian kids, the audience, we don't listen to Norwegian music. That's the thing. We listen to more Swedish music than we listen to. So it seems like it's either there's too much crappy Norwegian releases. The quality is, we need to make better music. We need to make, people don't listen to music because it's Norwegian. They listen to music because it's good, which means we care about if it's Norwegian or UK or American, but it's like people listen to whatever they like, whatever is on the playlist. Like in France, probably like in Sweden, the Norwegian broadcasters needs to play a certain amount of Norwegian music. The thing is, they usually play that from midnight till 6 in the morning. Because then they fulfill their obligations. So it's like, okay. So it's got nothing to do about like people really want to listen to music, Norwegian music. It's like, okay. So somebody is sort of requesting the government to sort of go in and say, okay, we need to dictate, we need to make sure that people listen to Norwegian music, even if they like it or not, we don't care. But that's not the way to go. We just need to make really, really good music because we care about music, if it's Norwegian or not. The people don't care. They just want to listen to good music, and we should acknowledge that and actually make fantastically good, super good Norwegian music. And we manage over the last year successes like Kygo, Nico and Vince. It's Norwegian in some ways, although Nico and Vince might be an American entity now because they signed to Warner and LA and all that stuff. So it's an ongoing discussion. I mean, you listen to more Swedish music, and probably a lot of the American music is produced by Swedes, so you're kind of written by Swedes and published maybe by Swedes, so it's a different story. But it's going to change. I'm sure it's going to change, but we need to make good music. That's simple. So basically, this is Norway. Just understand, of course, smartphone, tablets. 85% use the internet on a regular day. 74% watch TV. YouTube, double amount of views than Netflix. Kind of not surprisingly. 60% of Norwegians have access to a tablet. So basically, the platforms, especially if you're going to do marketing, you need to understand some of these, and you want to do it in Norway. And Sweden, I'm sure, it's the same thing. You need to build your marketing around these platforms. And also YouTube, how to monetize YouTube, how to use like clever marketing, how to build how much, what can you get out of Google Analytics and actually find your audience and see how they behave on these platforms. Super duper important. I can't stress that enough, and that's why a lot of people don't succeed, because they don't do what is requested of them to actually understand and do good marketing. Facebook, this last year, is probably the same. There's a lot of Snapchatting and all that. It's different media and it moves all the time. So if you're working with promo, you're gonna work with a promo marketing agency, you really need to understand what's moving and decide if you want to be part of that or if you want to do your marketing differently. But it's like even my mom, 75, she's on Facebook. And trying to explain and get her to act in a good way is interesting. Also, it's 2013 in Norway. It's kind of it's a huge shift actually, and it says something about like maybe a generation. More people read the news online than actually paper. And I think the paper or the news or newspaper business itself, I mean, they're really lagging behind. They should have learned so much from us. They don't. Norway, probably Sweden too. Okay, so where do we listen to music? Surprisingly, nope. 89% internet, smartphones, tablets. I think we're going to see an increase in tablets of the government. But smartphone, we listen to music here. So the red numbers is basically that's going down. PC files on the PC, MP3 player, CDs, of course. It's like, so the big one in Scandinavia is Spotify. It's 74% age group 15-29. I'm kind of expecting you to sort of, that's the main demographic we're aiming for. All ages 50. WIMP 14-21, it's hard to get, as you probably know, if you tried to get real numbers out of, and that's like business secrets and all these things. But just like you get a really good idea how this works. 2000, found this kind of interesting. 2000, 50% listen to music on an average day. I was expecting it to be higher, and now it's gone down to 41%. Maybe streaming, there's going to be a shift, and it's coming back again. But it was kind of surprising because music is everywhere. So I think like listening to music is actually an active, something you actively do. It's not just passing by stores and YouTube, Spotify, Wimp, and iTunes. This is high. This is, this is kind of brilliant. 78%. 20% paid subscribers. And then we know that Tidal, JC is launching, that's gonna start to roll. Beats, Apple, gonna release probably this summer. They have access to 800 million credit cards, 600 million devices. So you can just do one update here and one press, and you subscribe. So that's gonna change. I mean, if they manage to do it right, probably less than 1% of things. I'm not sure if they're gonna make it right, but we'll see. If they can do it right, boom, the global streaming paid market's gonna be big. And then you're gonna see money trickling in. But if nobody listens to your music, you're not gonna make anything. And that happened in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. Same thing. The popular artists, they have always made money. The problem is basically you and me. The ones who used to sell 10, 15,000 copies, then you can make some money and you can actually, have a career. That's the part of the digital economy. The indies are really, they've been the ones who's been struggling. And also because the small companies, few people working there, it's hard to sort of grasp everything and have a knowledge and sort of change the way you work. And it's hard to sort of take a step up and employ more people because it's a slow thing. But you have to work differently. That's the key thing. Any questions? No. Just for fun, can you read this? No. So the most sold single in Norway in 2014 was John Legend, Ed Sheeran, and Sine Bush, and then, is it possible to read? No. So it's impossible to read here too, so I'm sorry, I can't. Donkey Boy, a Norwegian artist, the Norwegian radio list. 2014, Ed Sheeran, Lord, John Legend, Ed Sheeran. Okay, I'll make this, you can get it later. Doesn't make sense, I can't read anything here either. So, I think maybe we should talk about the basics here. Okay. So this is now I kind of painted. I'm gonna walk over here. Hello, nice to see you guys. Oh yeah. I've tried to paint sort of, that's the background. This is the Norwegian market, the numbers, blah, blah, blah. It's a little bit different than Sweden. I mean, it's a lot of the same things, same issues. I mean, I think your music business and industry is way more international. You have an experience that we sort of been lacking for years. But there's a tons of potential, and there's really, I mean, as said, you can't just have be Swedish and have a great song anymore and think you're gonna make it in Norway. You actually need to start to compete with what I'm trying to show you. All the international acts, the same the lists, the same, Norwegian kids, we listen to the same music that everyone else does. So this is before I move on and start to get into more details stuff or about sort of the Norwegian market, I call it the RTD. To do stuff in Norway, to do stuff here, whatever you do, you need a reason to do it. So the question would be, why do you do what you do? Always question why? It's like a lot of artists seems like, I really want to sign with Universal. Universal is a global company, blah, 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 all the opportunities in the world. And then you ask them, it's like, why do you want to sign to Universal? And there's no answer. Can they cater? Can they give you? Can they provide for you the stuff that you need to succeed? If you're this kind of artist, you'd rather go to these or you rather sign with this label, or you rather want to do it yourself. It's really, I mean, can you answer? Is there a reason to do this? If you can give a good answer, that's where you start. You know, the RTD. It's nice too. So basically, you need a great, fantastic artist. You need super duper music. It needs to be awesome. And then you need a fantastic team. I mean, that's like home turf. This is like, that's the home team. And of course, the team need to be built around the artist, and you need to get everything from like, you know, good communication to understanding what everyone needs. The reason to do is defined. So I want to do this and this and this, and you work together. And then the demographic. You need to do a lot of work when it comes to finding out who's your demographic. You understand that word? Demography. Who do you want to target? Who's your target audience? You know, is this music that sort of, because everyone is not your audience. It might be at some point, but it's really, you need to find, I call it the family, the hardcore family. Core familien. The family are the ones you're targeting, because that's, you build loyalty forever. So as an artist, when you build, you need to focus. You can't be everywhere, you need to focus. You build a close family, and that close family is going to be your good ambassadors. They're going to spread the word, they're going to be the good helpers, they're going to make things, you know, you add on. And it's like in business planning and all that stuff, it's like the customer group number 1. That's the core customer in the middle, and then the customer group number 2, customer group number 3, customer group number 4. The further you get from the core, the less likely they're going to follow you. So basically, when you have a hit on P3, you know, you get tons of new followers, but they're going to be with you, you know, the closer to the core family is going to be with you forever. They can buy everything. They're going to go to gigs. They're going to buy merch. They're going to write good things about you. They're going to spread the gospel of your band. And the customer group number 4, they'll just be, you know, there's going to be a new A-listing in 2 weeks. So they just listen to new music. So it's really important to sort of target your demographic and understand them. Where do you reach them? Snapchat, papers, local papers, is it Swedish radio, Norsk NRK. How do you reach them? You know, the behavior. Everything I've shown you before, I mean, you can spend weeks analyzing the data, the reports, trying to understand where you should actually marketing. And you need to build really good tools that communicates with your demographic. So you understand, you use the language, the aesthetics and everything that sort of talks to them. And then you build a relationship to good helpers. And with good helpers, it's everything from like die-hard fans who can help you, of course. And a lot of the ones I'm going to show you later, like Norwegian management, Norwegian labels, Norwegian music business people. I mean, the good helpers are the ones that are going to help you to succeed and actually reach your goals. And actually, yeah. And also, I'm sort of, I would love to see more of sort of the return the favor concept instead of do co-management deals, you know, licensing deal and all that stuff. Maybe if Norway, and if you have an artist that you want to try to break in Norway, you can return favors. There's a lot of Norwegian artists, and Norwegian artists never, ever. Sweden is really tricky and really hard for us to sort of, I don't know, you guys don't like Norwegian music? It's kind of impossible. But I think if there are different ways to sort of work together, of course you can have like a management on a retainer, you can pay them a monthly fee, or you can actually say, okay, I've got these artists, we kind of like the same artist, like your artist, maybe we can do favors and swap services and actually do things instead of just like money, and give away rights. It's always tricky. I think you need to have a really good strategy if you want to do a co-management deal and split your management fee in half and sort of build. That's more long-term. So there's tons of ways to sort of work together and find different ways to sort of build a good relationship. And maybe that word, strategies, is the one that's sort of lacking the most here, and of course in Norway too. You really need to have a well-planned, good strategy. Radio, this is like traditional radio. So I don't know how often you listen to NRK. If you're going to do stuff in Norway, you have to listen to some of these radio channels, because you have to, it's homework. NRK P1, P1, that's for my mom and dad and people, 40, 45, 50 plus. It's local news. There's, all these. They play music, they don't disturb you. It's nice. A lot of Norwegian music when it comes to local. They play a lot of local and Norwegian music. That's part of their. But they're also the biggest. Is that because kids don't listen to radio? Could be. Not sure. Or is it that age group love to listen to radio? I mean, how many of you listen to radio on a daily basis? Radio, FM? Okay, interesting. P4 is commercial radio. Old country, really nice music, same thing. Nothing that disturbs you, old hits, new hits, but not like, no metal, no nothing that sort of gives you, it's easy listening. It's your life. You want to listen to radio, you want to drive, you want to work. Radio Norge, same thing. P3, that's for the kids, 15-30. And then the NRK P13 is a web channel. It's a web station for the 30 plus. The ones me who used to listen to P3. I'm too old, so now listen to P13. So they play hits from when I was some old stuff and then some of the new stuff. P2, it's like the kulturkanalen. So it's a lot of like interviews, cultural news, and 2%, 5%. It's okay, but it's not a mass market. So if you have like a lot of the jazz, a lot of folk music, a lot of this would be played, classical music would be played there. And you need and you meet the people and the audience who actually listen to that music. So it's a good vehicle and a good outlet to actually reach them if that's the music you work with. Local radio, 4%, not that much. I think it differs from different cities. We don't have it strong. I think in Oslo there's a few local radios who are actually quite big. I don't have the numbers. And as said before, we had like national broadcasters used to be the defining one. So that was easy before, and that's kind of, those days are over. What they do now is like rigging themselves on online presence. In 2017, Norway will shut off its FM net. Is that happening here too? So basically it's going to be all digital, so you have to scrap the old radio. It's going to be a sad day and nice at the same time. Basically coming back to sort of the curatorial niche market, US market, media, radio situation. It's kind of happening here now too, because when you move from FM to digital, you will have more station. It's cheaper, and you can really targeting, like the NRK Jazz, for example. They stream jazz music. There's a hip-hop channel from NRK. There is folkemusikk, NRK folkemusikk. You're not going to reach like 7%, but you're going to reach the hardcore, your core family could be listening to those stations. So in some way you can say that national radio sort of is kind of losing its defining role, sort of as a gatekeeper. It's kind of, because it's not exclusive anymore.
In Sweden we have, the Swedish National Radio has a portal that we can upload new singles to. How do you work in Norway towards radio? I mean, of course, you could hire someone to do the pitching for you, but are there ways to just upload to a system, or do you send to certain...
You can send the stuff. Then again, it's all about, this is a people's business. You need to know people, or you don't have to, but you kind of have to.
But it's physical sending still?
Yeah, you can still do that, mail to these, and they have the meetings on Monday, and they go through. But of course, if you ever gonna have someone on a retainer, work with a marketing promo agency, you buy for their network. You buy into the network. They will go to, and you know this, I think, you go to NRK P3, you build those relationships at Bylarm and all these places, and then you're trustworthy. If you represent good quality, you will build a trustworthy reputation. So these are just a few. I mean, for NRK P1, P2, 3, Folkemusikktimen, DJ-friendly P3, and also on net, like electronic music, dance music, different. You can send in, play unsigned stuff. Pyro, metal, Urørt, super duper important if you have kind of the unsigned, if you're looking for new talent. And also just spend time on Urørt, the app online. Go through things, see what gets traction, who do they pick and choose, why. I mean, that's like the next move. You can sort of look into the future a little bit by seeing what's kind of moving, because it's kids who rate them. I mean, of course, NRK are there, and they present this, and they have a show, Urørt, and they have a channel called Urørt, or a station called Urørt, but it's really a good place to sort of get some feel of what's moving. Jungeltelegrafen, world music, it's a really good program. I think it's on P2, of course, but it's like contextualized world music and sort of ties it into traditional music and all that. And now, of course, National Rap Show. It is what it is, and it's good. And it's been good for years. And they also have like a online station called NRK National Rap Show, non-stop. Radio Nova, this is from my expert within hip-hop. That's a local radio station in Oslo. Anyone working with hip-hop here? Okay. Look into Radio Nova. You probably know this, maybe. They have a show called XO Hip Hop. It streams, and you can listen to it online. But I think it's kind of a collective. It's like it's the next generation of Norwegian hip hop, sort of being created around XO Nova. They are also a label, I think. So it's super interesting. P5 is Storby Radio, the big city radio. Play hits music is a commercial, so they sell ads. You should listen to, if you're ever gonna release music in Norway, you have to stream this stuff. Listen to the commercial. What kind of commercials? How are they built? How do they cater for their audience? It's really, again, do your freaking homework. Spend time trying to understand, see what moves. SBS Discovery Media is basically a holding company who owns all these radio stations. They are nationwide. The Voice, Radio 1, Radio Norge, Radio Rock. Listen to Radio Rock suddenly. One day there was Radio Rock, just metal, FM, 107 point something. But like a good mix of the commercial radio. Radio Rock is of course for people listening to hard rock and rock music. The other ones are actually The Voice, kind of a younger demographic. Faster, noisy, and all that. And of course, P4 is also commercial, but for more adult, AOR-ish. These guys are national tastemakers, and also a few of them are actually gatekeepers. So they will building good relationships, especially if you do niche music. It's easy sort of to get access to these. It's just people. I mean, nice people, and you can send stuff, ask questions, and sort of build those relationships. So go through their sites, go through the playlists, who are the DJs, Google, check out, network, do you know anyone, connected, Facebook, friends, blah, blah, blah. Do everything, check their programs and how and who, and how they do it, and who do they actually target, who's the listener, I mean, who do they target? Check also, see who sponsors, the sponsor commercial partners, and who actually buys time. And not many, I mean, I don't think a lot of you actually spend a lot of money on radio commercials for your artist. I would be a bit skeptical. You don't have to do that if there is no reason to do. TV, interesting. TV still keeps up. People watch TV. And especially for the kids, the younger demographic, they're the only channel who actually is not losing any viewers are TV Norge. They rebranded themselves, so they do a lot of The program profile is toward younger viewers. A lot of series, a lot of humor. So and that's been quite successful. Actually, kids watch TV, traditional TV, when it comes to it. The numbers from last quarter, 40% in the age group 15-29 watch TV programs. Internet, it's going to increase, I'm sure. It's going to be way more important and more important. Because you don't need cable anymore. I'm hoping to get rid of cable. 60%, you can read this yourself. It's kind of interesting. These data, it's kind of interesting. This is happening now. I'm not sure if your habits fits with this. And also the broadband, and that's a side discussion. When it comes to streaming music, should Telenor pay for the music that sort of trigger their sales of bandwidth and 3G traffic and all that stuff? The last DB TV, Dagbladet TV. Dagbladet is a newspaper. They have their own TV station. They do, and VG TV is the biggest one. And they're really successful. They're eating serious market shares, and it works. People watch their programs. They have great programs. They do live feeds. They've started a news channel. It's a great way to get info and updates, and of course entertainment. And people use smartphones and tablets. Of course, this is like everything else I've shown you. I'll run through this a little bit faster. Norsk TV. NRK, to the left, viewers, you can see the demographics, different demographics. NRK, it's the national TV, a lot of older people, and that's why the percentage, I think, is so high. TV2 are doing okay. SBS Discovery is basically TV Norge, belongs there. MTG is TV3 and Viasat. So if you're ever going to do any promotion there, who's your artist, who's your audience, your demographics, where do you meet them? Do you meet them here? Is it important? Do they spend a lot of time here? Will money spent on ads or on TV or radio be worth it? Probably not in the beginning. And it seems like if you have traction and you really want to go wide from your core fans to the customer group 2, 3, if you really want to go reach wide, then you will put money into ads at that time. And in Norway, you see that for not NRK, but also some of the programs, the artists who actually attend some of these old artists singing cover songs with other artists eating dinner and talk about things. I'm sure you have the same. What's the name of that program? I can't remember. But it's like you can see the placement of artists when it's on NRK or TV2 is specific for that audience group or that demographic. So if you have an artist who will actually fit well with NRK P1 or NRK 1, Skavlan, it's really, how do you get on Skavlan? Because you don't want to reach 12, 19-year-olds putting someone on Skavlan. So it's a big, it's a big market share both in Sweden and Norway, and of course that group, and also the group that buys CDs. People 65, 50, 45, they still buy CDs. There's a shift coming, but that's why it's worth it. And it's a really hard competition, where it's a slot there's a lot of people trying to get that slot. Printed press. VG is it's the biggest one, most important one. It's actually, if you vg.no, it's kind of the layout, the design, the profile is really kind of messy. It reminds me of a lot of it fits their profile, it fits the news. They really represent their readers and the demographics. It's for the people. So it's kind of news mixed with entertainment, glossy magazine content, fashion. It's like everything mixed, and they run a really successful VG TV, which are really, And they were kind of the first newspaper to really do this well. So it seems like, I think they kind of sucked all, they cater for the demographic, but a lot of the other newspapers are trying to do the same, but it's a country of 5.5 million people. So it seems like VG have that group, age group and that demographic there already. I think the other one, they're really trying to replicate what VG has been doing, but I don't think they will succeed because the kids are at VG TV, they follow those stories, those series. All of these are online, of course. A lot of them are testing different ways for pay. You know, if you're going to pay for this or if the free stuff, and that could be interesting too, if you do your homework to see how they cater for the readers. Norway is a tiny market. It's quite small. So I think a lot of it's a trial and error time in the newspaper business. The local papers, Bergens Tidende, Adresseavisa, they cater for different parts of Norway. My hometown is Stavanger Aftenblad, and I have a local focus. And VG, Dagbladet, kind of the same. Aftenposten is more Oslo-oriented. It's more a little bit, I don't know if you can say serious in some ways. Dagens Næringsliv is the business paper, like here. Morgenbladet, culture, like to the left. Dagsavisen is more, there's a lot of culture. And then Klassekampen, it's like the political landscape covered, same as here. Magazines. I was kind of struggling finding these, but there's a few left. Norway Rock, metal rock. Musikkpraksis, maybe it's here too. It's kind of music business, equipment stuff. It's like they've been around forever. Classic music, if anyone works with classical music, I think that's an important one. Jazznytt, and then the blues, and then folkmusikk. So they're actually out there, they're physical copies. And the question would be, I mean, is that because the demographic loves to buy things? The rock audience, they still buy CDs. They love to touch things, vinyl, T-shirts, and all that stuff. Same with blues and jazz, way more physical. Online magazines could be interesting for you because these are like, you know, you'll hit your targeted audience or your demographic through these. There's a lot of metal, good metal stuff here. Urørt.no. Musikkpraksis, Gaffa, Spirit, Natt og Dag. It's a free paper, but it's also a paper. And, you know, age group around like students, campus student paper. Norsk Blues Union. So that's also part of the homework and research. If you're gonna launch an artist, you know, these could be your good helpers. Give them exclusives, interviews, have really good tools, bios, photos, Norwegian bios, whatever. You have to do your homework and you have to prepare yourself. And the moment you know, there needs to be a reason to do. Like Norway, there is 1 trillion billion. Every person in Norway has got their own festival, it seems. Every little tiny town have a festival. So it's kind of been a festivalization over the past years. So that's kind of there's hundreds of them. These are just some really good ones, and I've forgotten, many. I'm sure you know this when it comes to folkmusikk, jazz, and I'm sure you can mention many more. I think All Ears, experimental, really cool one. Ultima, country, and vise, roots, classical music. If you're ever going to do anything in Norway, I think you should go to Bjelland next year. It's like kind of, they want to be South by in some ways. There's a tech startup thing. It's a great festival. There's too many things happening at the same time. There's tons of people. You meet a lot of these people there. There's always a focus. It tends to be too big in some ways, so I'd rather go. I mean, maybe you should go to Folkelam if you're into folkemusikk, roots music, traditional music. Folkelam is kind of a mini Bjelland, but with a focus on Folkelam. Sørveiv in Kristiansand is great. It's a tiny little city, which means they gather an okay amount of people and business, but you can get so much done there because you have time to hang for the whole weekend. You meet the same people over and over. Bygdaland, it's just a great, it's great nature. The panels, the same thing. Trondheim Calling, it seems like Trondheim Calling is taking over what Bjelland used to be. When Bjelland was traveling in the beginning, they traveled to different cities, and then it became national, and then all these regional festivals, the business festivals, showcase festivals started, and now it seems like a lot of people love to go to Trondheim for Trondheim Calling. Panels, a great place to showcase your band. So go there, prepare, set up meetings, work with your artists, work your network, have fun, but get up in the morning. That's like, stay up late, get up in the morning. Venues. Again, there's 50 more that should have been there, but it's a good starting point. Some jazz, some visa, some cosmopolite world music. There's rock and roll fellow, John D, Centrum Scene, the big international acts, Norwegian act, Parkteatret. Rockslo is run by kids, different places, so it's got that vibe to it, really. But again, I mean, do your homework, look into it, Google, look at the website, look at the program. Is this the profile, this is the program, that's where you want to be? Because if you're going to work with a booking agent in Oslo or Norge or here, you need to have some experience, even if you've never been there. These are the places I think my artists would fit because there's a reason to do. How could we do this? How can we build? Do you agree? How can we make this work? And also, the Kulturhus. Do you have Kulturhus in Sverige? I mean, you can run tours, Kulturhus tours. I mean, there's like festivals, there's a Kulturhus built on every little, nes. It's like everyone's got their own Kulturhus, way too expensive, of course. And now you need to fill them with something. So to be creative and put together a tour with different Kulturhus could be a smart move. Viseklubber, they have Viseklubber all over the country. Same with blues clubs. The regional jazz centers, they're everywhere, and they're a really good resource when it comes to, ask them about things, got the information you want, they put on tours together, they work with different, so that's super good starting point. And also like here, probably student venues. I didn't mention them here, but there's like a long list of student venues that really runs good programs. Indie, rock, pop, metal, visa, singer-songwriter stuff. A short list, I'm sure I forgot some here, but these are go-to people, if you really. But before you do your homework, research, look who are the artists, who do they work with, how do they present themselves? Is this, someone you want to, meet and greet and build relationships? And you can do that at Bjelland. Again, go back, build, because you don't want to, you want to work with good people, fun people. You want to work with people with heart and soul. I mean, you don't want to work with assholes and stupid with no knowledge and nothing. And the thing is, in this business, people who are confident, know what they're doing, they are willing to share. If people do like this, no good. So basically, you got nothing to fear. If you know what you're doing, people are willing to share, which means you can ask for advice and they will give you advice because I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at, so it's no problem. And that's the kind of people you want to work with. All of these are really good players, international experience. They have the know-how, they know the Norwegian market and sort of the waves, what's moving. I'm sure they represent Norwegian artists abroad. They work with international partners. I'm sure that a lot of them work with Swedish partners. We don't have, like, Oslo is kind of well built when it comes to promoters, but a city as Stavanger, there's few. It doesn't make sense to be a promoter in a little city because the venue program themselves. So for me to put on shows, it doesn't happen too much. It happens in Bergen, it happens in Oslo, and of course a lot of the promoters in Oslo will also provide you the whole country. I mean, this, so a promoter puts on shows at different venues. They work with different venues. It's one stop for you if you want to try to put on shows with your band, and they would take on. So it's like a booking agent, but they also do to promote the shows. And I'm sure there's a lot of promoters in Stockholm who used to. It's the US market is built on promoters. Management. Again, you might want to go to one of these with your artist and sign them. Then again, you have a co-management in Norway, or the money is going to stay in Norway. I mean, are there different ways to work together? I mean, could you do a return the favor, a retainer, you pay and you get? I mean, we have a lot of management, but these are really good. Some of these, or more and more, actually become full-service music companies. And you see that because just putting so much effort and money into sort of being a manager, it makes sense with that skills and the way we work now, that actually you can be the management, you can do the booking, you can do the partnerships, you can do the marketing. So a lot of these are actually, and some of them are actually full-service agencies already. So these guys will work with you if you are great, if you have interesting artists and interesting music, if you have a good profile, if you're a professional, and if you share sort of the same values when it comes to whatever you do and the way to work. Again, there's different ways to work together. You can do co-management deals, you can share artists, divide territory, you can have people on retainers, or you can return the favor. I'm sure there's different ways you can have and it evolves over time, but I would test and ask, and please, contact these people and ask for advice, what to do, how to do it. Marketing. I mean, everything I've been talking about today it's all about marketing. You have to have a fantastic artist, extremely good, well-produced, it needs to be interesting, it needs to be everything, it needs to be fantastic. And then again, everything is out there, you're competing with everything, it's noisy, it's really hard to penetrate that noise and actually reach your demographic. It's like getting your music from here to actually get someone to listen to it is really hard. And that's why marketing skills, understanding of the market itself, as said, Norway is one market, of course, but then again, the market we're competing in is global. So it's get all these different shapes and forms, and you need to think bigger. Yep.
My idea of the Norwegian PR firms is that they are maybe 3 times as expensive as in Sweden, at least. Is that your impression as well?
Yeah, I think so, because some of these can pick and choose. And then again, Norway is super rich. And of course, the living expenses and the living standards are really high, so it kind of evens out. And they're way more expensive than you guys.
Half the size of Sweden, but it's half the size of the market of Sweden, but costs 3 times as much to penetrate. I just want you to keep that in your head. You need to really analyze if you want to, and if you need to, and reason for doing it.
But then again, do you buy packages, or how do you work out the deals? Because you work in Norway. You've been to Norway many times. You know this.
We invest in PR on very rare occasions. Most of the time we put our own hours in, do the research, and email ourselves. And then we have distributors and the aggregator you mentioned previously that helps us a little bit. But most of the time it's too expensive for our Swedish artists. But we have worked with Norwegian artists, and then we feel then it's worth investing, because then we have an artist in the market with a booking agent, and then it's worth it for us. That's our analysis. Yeah,
because you have a reason to do, and you know what you want to achieve. You build your team. It's your team. You don't sell yourself to anyone else. It's your team. It's your artist. It's your pride. It's your money. So basically, you need to find out. Again, you need to know what you want to achieve and how to achieve it. And a lot of these things you can do yourself. It takes time, but learning is good for you anyway. And then I think there are different prices here, and you can really work with a lot of them when it comes to prices. I mean, you can pay little and get some. You can pay a lot and get a lot. And then again, they can't guarantee you anything, but it's like the better you know yourself and you know the market you're gonna enter, and the better, the more prepared you are to actually sit down with these guys and make deals. And the same goes with labels, Norwegian labels, even the majors. I mean, if you know what you want to achieve, and it's also a good team. It's a team where everyone benefits. If it's good for me and it's good for you and for you, then it's a good team. If it's just for the money, it's never going to work. And that's why you want to work with good people who actually understand this and are in this business for the right reasons. And a lot of these people are. The thing is, they can do radio for you. They have the relationships, and of course, you buy into those relationships. And they know the printed press, the digital marketing, and partnerships. Especially the digital marketing. I mean, Facebook changes every 2 weeks. Their algorithms. I mean, it's impossible for you guys or for me to follow what's going on. Same with YouTube. Universal have a huge team following this every single week, and they work with the algorithms, the programming, how actually, if you click this, then you got the cookies and all these things. You need to understand that. It's a profession by itself, and it seems like at the moment that it's the labels with the most resources who actually can do that the best. So digital marketing, you should actually, and a lot of these people are actually really good when it comes to, so that's probably something you want to buy into. Check the roster, check the presence in media for the artists they work with. Are they doing a good job? Do you like what they do? No one can do a miracle or guarantee anything. For a mainstream artist, you really need something to pull the train and build around. You need traction. So if you want to break an artist, or if you want to go reach a larger audience, you need some sort of radio. So a lot of people get exposed to your artist, and then you can work. Or you need some traction online. Which means you need to plan different strategies, and you need to know where you're heading and what you want to achieve. Plan your campaign like a book, divided in chapters. The story of an artist, the singles are like chapters. You need the introduction of the artist would be sort of the introduction to the book, and then there's the first story, the second story, the third story. You might want to give something to the guitar players. You want to focus on the pedals, the tech stuff, so the tech savvy. If it's a really well-produced album, you want to reach like the audio files. I mean, you need to plan all these stories, and it's maybe an 18-month long stretch, which means before you start, you need to know what you're trying to do. So the first single, you want to do this, because if you can achieve this, it will bring you here. And when you're here, you want to go here. It's a lot of planning, and you need to know, but that's the best thing. If you plan your strategy like a good book, a novel, then it's a good way to sort of memorize. You need to get a new story. You need to get deep digger into your artist. You need to unfold more stories to the artist. An artist song video is not fresh until you press play, and so you activate it into a market, which means you can do stuff in Sweden, and then when you want to go to Norway or the opposite way, I mean, it's when you sort of bring it out there and actually push it, that's when it becomes fresh. A good tip, work with Phonophile, our super aggregator in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Ask them to sit down and plan an online digital marketing strategy. Bring some funding. Ask them to match fund, so you get like ads for free. You can ask, if you work with Phonophile, you can ask them if they believe in the artist. You can go together with Phonophile, raise, if you bring 10,000, they match you with 10,000. You bring those 20,000 to Spotify, and you ask Spotify to match fund. You have 40,000. So you need to sort of build something around the artist. If people believe in it, they will push it. And yeah, time is running out, so but it's like, ask if you have a good idea, if it's good for everyone, because they want to break artists, they want to have artists that actually streams through there, they're making money that way. So just ask them, can we do it this way? You want to be part of this way. Partnerships, I don't know if you're really, I mean, that's kind of a new business territory in Norway, working with like commercial partners. Universal Music has established a new business department in every country office. So there is a new business department in Universal Music in Norway. They are open for doing business with artists outside of Universal. Interesting. So they can work with like Pepsi, Pepe's Pizza, all these things. But if you're going to do it, you need a reason, RTD. What's the reason you do this? Why do you want to work with Converse or Vans or whatever? It could be fantastic and it could be disastrous. Equal partners. You want an equal partner who understands your needs, and you need to respect their needs. I mean, you do a partnership, you get money or you get like exposure, but you need to know that they want to sell their shoes or their drinks, whatever. There's a little competence in this in Norway. I think it's a whole new market to exploit. The majors are gearing up, as said. This is a list of go-tos as well. Really good labels, great artists, and very good know-how. As said, lots of them are full-service, more service companies. The Norwegian market is influenced by the rest of the world. A lot of US music there are actually brackets probably produced by a Swede. So these, different genres, check out, do your homework, research, send them an email, meet them at Bjelland, discuss, present your artist, see is there any good ways to, these are people who loves music, like you guys do. Publishing never been big in Norway. We have a long history of sheet music publishing, really fresh. Like I said, 14 million Swedish crowns are made from Norwegian artists in this country, and I think that sucks. So I want to do something about that. We need to build a publishing business in Norway. And my claim is the Norwegian music business don't really understand what a publishing company does or what it is. It's getting better. As said, most artists are signed in this city, Norwegian artists. This is an opportunity for you to start something in Norway. I think the next generation are more on it. It's going to change, and we are actively trying to change that in Norway. And remember, a good publisher will make the catalog work for them. They will work actively on actions and setup for their writers. That's two things. And they have great network and connections, so they can make syncs. So basically, of course, it's the catalog. They try to make things out of the catalog, but also they provide opportunities to write and create more content. It's a young business in Norway. Public supports. Let's see, 1% of the state's budget goes towards the arts, which is Norway is one of the richest countries in the world, so there's a lot of money into the arts. It's hard to read. There is the cultural fund, there's music for music production, touring, export initiatives. They fund the Music Norway office. You can probably tap into that as well if you work together with Norwegian partners and you bring a good project together. So you need to find a common ground and common projects. You need to have a strong Norwegian focus. And it's a lot of the focus here and more about the arts, the content itself, than actually the business side of the money things. So it's a lot of funding for producing, recording, releasing stuff, touring. It's a great opportunity to get good projects off the ground, but you need a Norwegian anchor point and a co-op. Yeah, check the kulturråd.no site. It's in English too. And then Music Norway, it's like you guys, but way bigger. Norske arrangører. Everything about venues, festivals, contact information, reports, numbers, statistics, everything. MIC is the same. It's like a list of everyone, all companies registered. It's like the yellow pages. Folkorg for folk music. Viser.no for vise, singer-songwriter stuff. Jazz in Norge, jazz blues. Kulturråd. Phonophile, great aggregator. Especially if you're not on Universal and Sony, they do this themselves. But if you need someone to it's fantastic. They have also one-on-one digital marketing. You can go through courses, great information, all that stuff. Ballade is kind of a cultural site for the business side. Brak is like, we have these regional competence centers. So if you want to do, Brak is probably the first one. It was the first one and the best one. I think they have tons of resources you can tap into as well. And Funo, I forgot to say, ifpi.no, ifpi.no, and then Funo are for the independent labels. These will give you great insight into the world of Norwegian music and the Norwegian music industry. And ta-da! Last one. Keywords. If your artists suck, it's not interesting, the music is crap, do something else in life. The world needs doctors and teachers. We need great artists. The world always needs great artists and great music will be a demand for. There's tons and lots of potential in Norway. There's a Swedish music history in Norway. We love Swedish music, but the competition is much harder now. But you can I'm not sure if you can surf that wave still, but at least people will pay attention, I think. There's tons of great players and companies, not too many, which is great. A few handful at different levels. There's 800 releases, but that doesn't mean there's 800 great companies. I've shown you a few. We're actually on the forefront in the digital music economy. A lot of these people have been through a lot, and they know how this works. You need a reason to do. If there's no RTD, fuck it. If there is, go for it. And you need a good strategy, how to get there. Time is your best friend. Return the favor. It's so simple and so easy. You help me, I'll help you, and we'll do good things together. Maybe there's some good relationships to be made. And for Christ's sake, do your homework. And it's because I think that's the problem. People just don't want to do their homework because it's boring. But it's crucial. If you really want to make a difference, do your homework. I'm tired of hearing myself. It's like, the stage is too big. So, questions?
Tell us a little bit about the music fund that you started.
Music fund? It's basically a kind of a venture capital. I call it competence risk capital. So basically, the problem with lots of the venture funds, they just want to see the Excel sheets. And this business is something by itself. It's really hard to show the potential in contracts and to understand the complexity of this business. So what we try there is actually to build a fund that are willing to take that risk and invest in companies. But I need to make money. My main return on investment will be financial. If I only want to go into project or buy into companies that I believe in, we believe in, that's going to make money. Because the Kulturråd is also a cultural fund, and they invest in project, but they want art as return on investment or competence or structure. There's different parts, different kinds of return on investment. So for us, it's basically sitting down and work with the companies, and they present if they want us to buy into and buy shares. And as an owner of a company, you have responsibilities in good times and in bad times, and you're represented on the board. So you can actually work actively to develop the company. And to own a company is actually, it takes time. The return on investment might be in 5 to 10 years, but you work slowly but surely and build, better structure around the company and better companies. Or we invest in project. Time-based kind of looks like a little bit like a licensing deal. you recoup your investment, and then you split, the success, and you're there for a certain period, and then it's over. So, like I told someone here, it's basically like, for one instance, we gave a label an opportunity to sign artists that are actually on a higher level or have had more success. So with our money, they could sign with an artist that actually have an audience and actually a turnover that sort of makes the label itself they manage to take that, the company one step up and develop. So sometimes you need volume, or you need better or bigger revenues, but there's always a risk. And then trying to match that with like understanding of the music business, so you can actually sit down and say, hey, this is a good project. And now I got financing from the Ministry of Culture to look into and see if this could actually be a national fund. And I think, the sales of Inspiro should be, wide. Could be still be on Norwegian hands, for example. It could be, then we need capital to start a Norwegian publishing company, maybe. I mean, you can challenge. So it's competent risk capital. That's the return on investment will be financial. And I think there's none. And then the running of the company would be paid by the government, because it's also pedagogical. You can use it as a tool to develop the business itself and then still make money. So I'll present this later, but it's a very interesting project. Sorry, it's a long one.
Is it already started, or do you start
Yeah,
it
the
now?
Buzz Fund in Bergen I've been running it for 5 years, but it took years to sort of get into a place where we could actually start to invest in companies. So we ran like competence programs, business development programs for the these managements and for the business itself, because I think the business need to professionalize, especially in the Norwegian music business. Maybe you guys are way better, but it's a business. It's a multi-billion, trillion business. I mean, it's huge. The sad thing is we kind of like, but it's thousands of billions of crowns and dollars out there, and we provide so much. So it's a big business and industry.
Då får vi avsluta och tacka Stein för all information.
Tack. Tack, Klemmer. Tack.